Hello, everybody, and welcome to WordPress Washington, D.C., otherwise known as WPDC. I am one of the co-organizers, Tom Finley, and I'm here with Beth Soderberg and Leland Feigl. And unfortunately, we had a little snafu with the Zoom link, so those of you who couldn't attend, you're watching this on YouTube. Beth, Leland, do you want to chime in before I get going? All right. So, my presentation is called Child Theme Hotwiring. And the concept here is that I want to show you how to create enduring, portable, full-site child themes. The back chatter discussion that we were having before we started was essentially that I want to kind of provide more of a framework, a thought framework, than a prescriptive recipe for how you should be building. Um, and so this is going to be part philosophy, and then I am going to get into a little show and tell. This is for intermediate to advanced WordPress users. If you are an intrepid beginner, by all means, follow along. And this is kind of an overlap of these personas, is who I'm targeting. Folks who work in agencies. I've heard a ton about how frustrated agencies are with their full site migration. We've got a lot of long in the tooth sort of builder-based sites, classic themes that need to be brought into the modern era of WordPress. But there's opportunity cost, there's risk associated with it, and agencies coming over to the block paradigm is a huge component of moving things forward. Small business and nonprofit web devs, admins, I encounter, especially here in DC, a lot of that sort of type of user. And I feel like you all could really benefit from seeing this, especially from a governance standpoint. And this is for the blockchain skeptics too. We're equal opportunity. We want to welcome you to the fold, show you that it's not quite as bad as is being reported in the timelines. And learn to stop worrying and love the blocks. So, who am I? I am an Alexandria, Virginia-based digital strategist, WordPress developer, designer, and marketer, human Swiss Army knife, whatever you want to call me. I have my own micro agency called Proof Creative, and I specialize in WordPress development and digital marketing. Craft beverages were my target demographic, but now I'm focusing more on the nonprofit space. I've been doing this for about 20 years now, I think, since about 2005. I've been working with WordPress since about 2011, 2012, and Kubrick is how I cut my teeth. My whole goal here is to help folks make informed decisions to avoid the pitfalls that I've really fallen into myself, get away from technical debt, and just advance your business, your organization, and really accelerate into block editing without the huge 3-4 year learning curve. So let's talk about WordPress in 2024. Still around. People have lots of opinions about it. Things seem to be a little trickier than they were before. So I want to make some acknowledgments. Transitioning to full site is definitely a personal investment. No matter how you shake it, you're going to have to lean into learning a lot. So this is intended to help accelerate you, like pique your interest, but also point you in the right direction. It's a personnel investment. I spoke with an organization today that really just has not had the time to pivot out of classic and hybrid themes, and it really is a matter of headcount, and being able to learn, develop new frameworks in situ, and then deploy them. And a lot of businesses and orgs just can't do that right now. There is a large risk that comes with sunk cost. I know because I've experienced it myself. dcbeer.com is one of my businesses. I'm a co-partner in it, and it's also a site that I custom coded a theme, and the theme got upgraded, and the company actually closed down. And I am, I'm still. I developed this talk actually trying to figure out how to extricate myself from that situation. And you have an even larger risk for technical debt, right? We've got a lot of classic themes that are developed with advanced custom fields. There are really good reasons why you don't want to go just switching themes willy-nilly in terms of what that can do to your content from ACF. So I want to show you essentially how you can mitigate that. And there is no right way to do this. So you can, I'm welcome questions at the end, and but I would caution you to be extremely skeptical of anyone who's telling you there's a single approach to this that is the right way. Every person is different, every business is different. Let's talk about child themes. They are your ticket to avoiding theme lock-in. So with child themes, you have enduring customization, portability, and risk mitigation and future proofing. A child theme is essentially a companion or sidecar theme related to a parent or base theme. The terminology varies. Some people really don't like the nomenclature of a parent-child relationship, but for right now, we're calling them child themes. And you can think of child themes the same way you think of the CSS cascade, right? If WordPress is high up in your sort of logical DOM hierarchy, and your theme descends down from that, the child theme is a descendant sort of determiner of functionality and aesthetics right under the parent theme. So what we can do with this is literally copy a child theme into a completely new site. You can duplicate a child theme and change both the folder name and the namespacing to basically upgrade a new iteration of your site. You can keep all of your patterns, all of your changes enshrined in a child theme and have it under version control. And I think that's what people really have to learn, is that no code doesn't mean there's actually no code. No code means that you can graphically structure your sites and save that code and take it with you anywhere you go. So, patterns. If you are not familiar with patterns, they are the lifeblood of how we're doing block themes these days. Patterns are the building blocks of efficiency. Patterns are reusable designs that you would want to consider them sort of molecular in nature. If things like paragraphs, headings, and buttons are the atoms, patterns are the composition of those atoms to make various reusable portions of content available at your fingertips. And um, patterns work seamlessly across block themes, depending on how the block theme is structured. Sometimes patterns, the patterns that are supplied by core can be suppressed, and a block theme can supply only its own patterns. And then you can create your own with a pattern manager, which is a plugin that is managed by WP Engine. Custom fields. We are all fairly familiar with custom fields, I'm assuming. And they function largely the same way that they have for many, many years now. They allow us to extend the functionality of our standard posts and pages with a relative amount of ease. There is a learning curve with those as well. But ACF is still giving us the ability to flexibly create tailored content that fits specific requirements, and you know we tend to see these with these regularly occurring content types, custom post types like testimonials. You'll see one later that in my demo site that created an ACF group for case studies. But wherever you have content that is regularly occurring and needs to be sort of corralled for the end user, you're going to use something like custom fields or patterns. But the trick with custom fields is that they're very much locked in a sense by comparison to blocks by default. And additionally, with custom fields, you have the ability to do a lot more data wise than you do with the input on a standard page built with blocks. And I realized I probably should have had some more pictures as opposed to words, so sorry about that. Are you ready to hotwire your themes? First, that requires you embracing block themes, then taking control of them. I urge you to join the revolution, transition to full site with complete confidence, and know that all the tools and resources are out there for you to not only make these sites successful, but you can develop your own paradigm. So I will pause it there and switch over to the show and tell portion. Okay, I'm going to keep that folder handy. So, and clear out the Zoom dialog box here. All right. So I have four demo sites that I've constructed for this exercise. My first site here, you can see I have done some color customization and set up a standard cover block photo that is not the default for Ollie. I should probably call that out. This is essentially the bare bones default appearance of Ollie right here. And what I've done is gone and changed some colors, altered the color tokens. I haven't changed the type, but I've also installed my own ACF block and created my own pattern in this theme. And I'm going to basically take a bunch of those changes and show you how these themes react to sort of different circumstances. And then I'm going to show you how to actually make this child theme work for a different base theme. It's probably going to look ugly, but essentially I'm just going to show you how to port it over. So let's take a look so that you can see what's going on behind the curtain with my colors. I've instead of using the variations, the palette variations that Ollie supplies, I've gone in and altered every single one of these color tokens to be custom. And I'll switch that over to list view and you can see all of those there. Now, that's all in the database. And what I have to do if I want to take this anywhere is convert all of those changes to code. And there's a plugin called Create Block Theme that, sorry, there's a big flash of lightning that just happened behind me and I am waiting for my power to go out. Let's see. Oh, right. Create block theme gives you 4 simple options. Once that plugin is active, you can export your modified theme as a zip file. You can create a completely new blank theme using Create Block. You can create a clone of the theme that you're working in, or you can create a child. So in this circumstance, I've already gone ahead and created a child theme for Ollie. But what I haven't done is committed all the modifications that I've made to the code. So with Create Block Theme active, back here in the site editor, you'll see this, we have the global styles, we have the block sidebar, and then we have this handy dandy wrench that signifies we're working with Create Block. And I have a number of options here too. So I can create variations out of this. I can export a zip here, but what I want to do is save the changes to this theme to make sure that they are actually being committed to code. And it's literally this simple. You can toggle on and off your fonts, save your style changes, which is the stuff you're changing over here. Template changes. I mean, templates are that's a big item you want to have awareness of. I did not speak about templates earlier when I spoke about patterns, but you can generate templates through the site editor, and they're actually just residing in the database. So one sort of bad update or one accidental update, and you could wipe all your templates out if you're not careful. And so what we want to do is occasionally save all of our changes, template wise, pattern wise, style wise, and get it into our code. Okay, so nothing's fundamentally changed here on the front end. Nothing's changed on the back end. But what has changed, see if I can, oh, my version control is down. So what has changed is all of these items are now trackable. And should something happen, I can always go back to this revision and retrieve everything I've done. You cannot do that if you just let all of your changes linger in the database. So that's sort of our first top level way of mitigating risk is using Create Block Theme and to create a child theme and just regularly saving all of our database changes into that child theme. Now, I showed you kind of a brief overview of how to use Create Block, but let's look at what happens when you don't use Create Block, when you are editing just the raw parent base theme, however you want to refer to it. Here I have a very highly customized version of Ollie compared to what you just saw. It is, I've changed the color tokens in a similar way, but we have these big bold colors. I've set these fonts. And I may have created a template. I forget if I did that. But what I've got is one of those nagging little updates up here that, if we're not careful, a user could actually update the base thing. So what happens when I hit update and I've got all of this saved to my file system? So I lost my color tokens. It actually did keep my fonts, which I'm sort of surprised about. Um, but all of the work that I did was wiped out. And I mean, that can extend to much, much, much more than just losing colors. Um, so that's a prime example of just an update can completely undo um, all your hard work, and there is no way to retrieve that if it's on a live site. Other than hopefully you have managed backups courtesy of one of our lovely managed hosts. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Um, Now, the hot wiring part. What I want to show you is that we can, in fact, migrate from one one site to another, or one base theme to another. So I'm going to basically demonstrate that two ways. Really quick, I am going to export all of my field groups and my post types as JSON and make sure I have that. And then I'm going to move over to my secondary. No, that's number 4. I'm going to move to my secondary Ollie site. So right now I have just the raw. This is Ollie with not much else active beyond helper plugins. If I take you to my dashboard, you can see I have posts, pages. There is the pattern manager that's active, and then ACF. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to these tools and import that JSON file, um, so that I have all of my field data. Oh, hi. I guess I have to not take for granted that my license is active. Let me just take care of that real quick. Oh boy. Where's my ACF license? Here we go. Okay, everyone close your eyes. Good job, Beth. Okay. Um, so now that ACF is active, I should be able to import. Oh, well, let me double check and see if that actually worked. Okay, so case studies is now in this site, right? I have that custom post type, but what I don't have is the block for it. The block that is present on my previous site. So, example, this is what I want to see. Case study right there. Now, this actually shouldn't be showing on this page because this page isn't the correct post type, but whatever, we'll cover that base later. So let's see here. Let me find number 2. And okay, there's number 2. Now, what I'm gonna do is get into my child theme, and I can actually just copy and drop that right in. Come on, it didn't work. There. It's one of those nights. Okay. So what I've done is just completely brought over all of the code that I was working with before on my first demo site. And now that I have my ACF field group imported, all I have to do is go in and activate this child theme. And we should see a couple of changes immediately. The blue purple Ollie default is largely gone with the exception of this photo because that is an actual block. And then now that I'm in my case study custom post type, should be able to hit case study, and voila, I have the custom fields. So let's assume you're an agency. You have sort of a normalized approach to data across all of your clients. Um, you can literally either through just a demo site or one client's dev site expedite your development for an entirely different client by copying a child theme over. And I highly encourage everybody to really think about the things that you touch on a regular basis and start doing that. If you have definitely what I would consider more exotic needs, start with ACF. If you are dealing with certain content types that, or like, let's say page structures, um, that like taxonomies, maybe single posts, single event type posts, go ahead and reuse those templates and put it in your agency starter theme because you can always remove all of that stuff. That's another thing. Better to have and not need. So I can, let's see, type WPDC here, my client name, project name, redesign, um, February 2023, and I don't have any defined categories for this, so I'm going to say web design and hit add. And then I don't, let's see, do I have any lorem? No, I don't have a lorem ipsum generator handy. Let's see, words. Pay no mind to the license key behind the curtain. Okay. So this is all content, but in the editor itself, you cannot change the structure of this content. So that's what I mean by sort of like a normalized approach to data. Um, where I've most frequently encountered this are certain types of sales pages, higher ed, university course pages. You're going to have maybe multiple types of contributors touching that content. This is great for governance, and then I still have the flexibility of summoning all of my standard blocks. So this is a freeform content area directly under an ACF field, and I did all of that. I literally stood up a custom post type and ACF for a completely new website. And what was that, like 5 or 10 minutes? So that's sort of the first way of demonstrating the hot wiring. And now I am going to get more aggressive with it. So we'll say goodbye to demo site number 2, and then say hello to number 3. And I've learned my lesson. I'm gonna go, oh no, what happened? What's happened? Fatal error. I think I've got to go delete somebody. Let's see. What did I do? I didn't think I put anything in this. Okay. There was a problem with Ollie. So, um, bizarre. Updates. That's right. That's where they put that SKU license key thing. Okay. So once again, I'm going to import my ACF data so that I have everything I need for my custom block. And I'm going to go back to site number 1. And I'm going to copy child theme hot wiring and go to site number 3. Paste that same folder. Verify that it has made it across. Okay, I think I need Ollie too. That's right. Yeah. Okay. So this site's currently running 2024. I'll switch it to Ollie. We should see the default. We've got the purple, blurple, whatever you want to call that color. And my objective here is I want to make my child theme work for another common base theme, which is Frost. This is Frost was designed and developed by Nick Diego and Brian Gardner. It looks a little messy with the Ollie content here. But this is a free theme that you can go out and get. It's also maintained by WP Engine. It's been a few months since it's been updated, but Frost is a solid starting point as well. And so I've got to open up an IDE. Let's see. No labels for my site. So let me go ahead and navigate to local and open up VS Code for, okay, there we go. Now, here in VS Code, you'll see I have that hot wiring folder with a number of customizations, the blocks, the patterns, and those patterns, in fact, just to demonstrate like what I'm doing is real and live. I believe those patterns are maybe a restaurant menu or a testimonial. I forget. Let me type in menu and see if that comes up. So currently there's no menu, testimonial. There's definitely no testimonial box. So it's one of those two. And I'll hit publish just so we have that page handy. Let me go back to VS Code and make a couple of small alterations. I just want to double check that the Frost namespacing is in fact simply Frost. We can see here with Ollie, it says Ollie. And with Frost, we have capital F Frost, and then in the styles, capital F Frost, and text domain as lowercase Frost. All right, so we'll go into the child theme hot wiring directory, and I'm going to pick out a couple of things. The functions file, I'm going to change the package to uppercase Frost. There really isn't anything else in this file that needs to be renamed namespacing wise. And then I'm going to go to the styles.css for my child theme hot wiring folder and change the template here to Frost as well. And this still should work, I think. And then I just shouldn't have to change anything in theme.json either. I'm going to do a quick refresh. Everything is still the same. And I'm going to refresh here on the in the background of the theme appearance menu. And now hit activate. And what we should see is that's Frost now, but with all of the colors that I specified for Ollie. So there is literally zero reason that right now you shouldn't be able to start working on a block theme via a child theme. updating your classic themes, bringing all your advanced custom fields, modifications, enshrining your design system in the block theme. And then as time goes on, if you're not pleased with the base theme that you've used, a couple of small changes, and you have preserved all of that hard work, but can adapt to whatever's come down the pipe. So I hope that this was enlightening in some way. I know there was a lot of assumptions in terms of knowing how to use create block and patterns and templates. But I'm happy to answer questions and open up the discussion. So Beth, do you have some good ones or?
No one has asked questions yet, but I have questions.
Okay, go for it.
So my first question is if you could elaborate more on how you've integrated ACF, like what type of block was that we were seeing? How did you build that? Because I think the portability of ACF is the blocker for a lot of people.
Sure, I can go back to share. Give me a little more because I'm low on sleep and like do you want to see
How
the
was
actual
how was your
interface?
how was your block built
Okay.
so that you're not relying on ACF traditionally, right? But you're relying on ACF
Right,
standard.
right. Yeah. So there's like kind of two steps to that. And I'll admit, like I really don't have to build with ACF very often. Um so when you define your field groups, um in the past, you usually had a conditional for, say, like a post type, right? Like your post type is case study. And really, this should be a combo here. So let me say, show this field group if, can we rearrange this? So I'm gonna modify this, say if post type is equal to case study, I want to say show it if the block is equal to case study. That's the only time that I should see these, when my post type is case study and the block I am invoking is called case study. And it really is just the hardest part, I think, other than maybe the PHP code, is knowing how to set up this logic for when you want the blocks to show up. But on the other side of that, flip over here to VS Code, and I'm gonna go back to my original site just because I'll be able to see it in real time. So, well, I want that. There we go. Okay. So when you create an ACF block, you've got to do something pretty similar to what we did before, which is register and call them in your functions file. So you can see that right here. This is just dead simple register ACF blocks. And then it points to the block types that are available. So you'll see this register block type, the directory blocks slash case study. And what that corresponds to is there is a parent directory called blocks. Within it, there is a directory called case study. And then under that, each one of these individual blocks has its own block.json file, and a number of parameters are set in that block JSON file. And then you have your standard CSS file, which I will be honest, for some reason, the front end CSS wasn't working. And I didn't have time to debug that. And then you have your PHP template. So you call your variables, and then you just output them, right? So this is dead simple, a bunch of echoes. Does that answer it for you?
Yep. And I'm just gonna stick some tutorial from ACF about how to make these kinds of blocks in the chat.
Yeah, I have that in my resources folder, and I'm betting or sorry, my resources slide, but I'm betting the one that you found is the one that I used.
It's very possible. I just,
The
that,
create your first ACF block.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's still people's first barrier to doing this.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, I mean, I myself have held back on ACF blocks for a long time just because I didn't want to have to deal with three separate files, right? But it really is not that painful. Um, if I can do it. I would say the vast majority of intermediate to advanced practitioners can do it. Um, and the harder part, I think, is rolling your own blocks, like proper blocks, right? That has been a huge barrier for me. I'd hope to kind of get to a more advanced step in demonstrating that, but I don't know. I don't know if the name spacing switch has an effect, and I wasn't prepared to demonstrate that, so I had to cap it at patterns, um, templates, and ACF.
What questions does everyone else have? And Leland, if you could help me moderate, this baby's supposed to be sleeping, but
Yeah, sure. I can take a look. It doesn't look like anyone. Oh, hello, baby.
Yeah, I'll
Uh,
go back to your point. The template hierarchy logic is the same. It's just you use HTML instead of PHP. Um, and I um can't stress enough that using create block to take your patterns or sorry, your templates that you're building dynamically and just committing them to the code is like it's so much better than trying to copy and paste out all of the HTML from the editor and dump it into your IDE, right? So yeah, learn the template hierarchy logic. It's definitely going to be, you have to know how it works for core, but it also is going to be dependent on plugins. I have been able to essentially pull this off with um, events calendar. I've been able to I have had limited success creating single post templates for Give WP. Um, a lot of your big name plugins you should be able to create um, templates for. Um, so I think that's Bill. You came in late. I think you'll have to catch it on the
Yeah, I
oh.
came in very late. Sorry about that. Something else came up.
So, Beth is asking to see a demo of the query block. Can you specify how you would like it demoed?
oh,
And
and obviously someone should interrupt me. I'm just thinking of things that I've seen as common questions.
yeah,
And I think there's a lot of confusion about
so
how WP query translates to a full site editing theme.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the query block is I'll actually what I'll do is I'll do it in a post, right? So we're so accustomed to having to. Sorry, things are just randomly activating. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. So. Yeah, we're so accustomed to relying on like taxonomy archives or tag templates, and I mean if you're really savvy, you can use pages to override some of that if you need a lot of customization on a taxonomy template. But um, the query block is pretty straightforward. I don't see my green like box. Can you see my working screen, Beth? Okay. So let's see. The query loop is pretty straightforward. straightforward. You invoke it, set it on the page, and you can choose between some predefined versions of it. Now, the Ollie has this post loop list that it comes with, but I think that's, as far as Ollie vanilla goes, that's the only one. Ollie Pro has quite a few more, either coming or that already exist. So right here, you see the block that says post loop list, and it really is, it's a collection of multiple blocks. The query block in itself is actually a pattern. And this directly translates to what I was talking about with the on the hot wiring side. You can often spend quite a bit of time configuring how you want your posts to look, right? And you don't want to have to completely reskin every site. So let's say I'm maybe a fan of a 2-column kind of representation for my posts. I'm gonna start rearranging it, and what I'll point out here is we have our top block, which is the post loop list, but down inside it we have the post template where there are a number of other parameters you can set. So I can flip this over to a grid view, and you saw that change dynamically. I'm going to flip it back to the list view. And I mean, the awesome thing here is that you can actually insert essentially additional blocks in the query. So if I wanted an icon block or a specific image to appear with every single post, I could add that in. But in this instance, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bust it up into columns. So Beth, you're trying to push me into poodle press territory, like live designing sites. I like it.
Not
Maybe
exactly. I just,
maybe
know.
one day, maybe one day I'll get an invite.
I can tell you
So
for the things I struggled with when I started building FSC themes.
so what I've done is I've dropped the featured image into a column, and I'm putting the category above it. And then what I'll do is in this other column, I'm going to drop this entire group. And I'm going to delete my content and actually bring my separator back out. It's a little quick and messy. But I think I need an excerpt. Yeah, an excerpt would be good. So I'm gonna add the excerpt after my title. And that's composing a query block on the fly. And the cool thing is, like with your featured images, you can toggle whether or not you want them to link to the post. I don't know why you wouldn't, but some people probably don't. You can set overlays. And one thing that I really love is being able to, on the fly, change the orientation of the images. So it basically lets you auto crop. And I want to get one that's taller than wider. And then I'm going to go ahead and publish this. And think we need some dummy data, don't we? We need to be able to see the posts. Or do I no, I already did that earlier. So let me go into this page. I think I have to refresh to be able to see view page. That drives me crazy. I think, what did I not do? I didn't select my, did I not select my post types? That's funny. Beth, do you know what I didn't do?
I wasn't looking that closely, but if you go over to there, yeah, it should be there. Shouldn't it? Go there.
Yeah. Let me make sure I have posts. So this
Well,
is,
that's what I was going to ask you next.
I thought I generated, yeah, I have. So that was funny because I saw these on the front end or back end, but they're not appearing on the front end. And that's not typical. I don't know why that's not happening or not rendering correctly.
And
Let's see.
yes, I think Stephanie's asking, isn't it supposed to default to posts? And I believe it does. But
Mhm.
I think what Tom and I are both looking for is that.
Let me flip it. Let me flip it to
So when you
case
go
study.
into the settings for the query block, you can change what post it is. You can change the order by. This is one of my personal gripes. You cannot select the random for order by because of how taxing it is on the server.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
think, well, I think in this instance, what happened is, I think it might be because of the default. Yeah, it's the default is the problem because we're still running, there's the page query, and then there's the post query inside the page. And I don't think I don't think it can handle that double default query. So you have to go with a custom one.
and what I think is really interesting about this is I don't know that I have ever tried to make a query directly in a page. I almost always put them in my templates.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if the query type is different there. I don't know.
I don't know, but I'll show you guys I'll show you the site that prompted me to have to rethink all of my approach to theming. So this is DC Beer. It's a local copy, so some of it's not gonna work correctly. But I took a hybrid approach to the archive pages with this. So the podcast is its own custom post type. And you'll see here what I did is I set up sort of an intro for the DC Beer Show. Then I have the entirety of whatever the most recent episode is with the embed that pulls in. Unfortunately, that's not ACF. That's actually this is all of the post content. So that's one query block. And then I have a second query block that's powering this list of previous episodes. So I'll go into the back end and show you what that template looks like. But yeah, it's not. I agree with you. I still am not using the queries beyond maybe like a homepage. Um, um, I forget what the recent posts. I guess the recent posts on the single post template are some form of the query block, but anyway, I don't want to get too far afield. I want to show everybody this. So this I am using INO blocks. That's what this grid thing is all about. But as I drill down into this first area, you can see the query block that I have constructed for it. And then, you know, these are other standard sort of blocks, I guess. Actually, maybe these might be specific to the theme. But here's the completely separate set or separate query loop block for all the older episodes. So there's, you know, there's an offset associated with it. And for me, the query block is disorienting in the selection of, I think it's the number, is it the number of columns? I can't even remember what gets me going, pulling my hair out all the time, but I think it's like the settings for your offset are always, did somebody draw that?
That was me.
That was so cool.
I
Where
love
do I
them.
go?
So are you looking for the offset settings?
Yeah.
They're in here. That's why you can never find them. If you click on the three dots, no, actually, you know what the problem is? You are, yeah, there you go.
I have to go to list view. So no, I think there may be something. It may be that this theme is so old,
Not
that's
supported.
not tapping into it. But that doesn't make sense because I configured it to begin with. So
They're
obviously,
definitely in here, and it's the same logic. If you were writing a query using WP query by hand, it's the same logic, which is part of why it's really weird in a WYSIWYG, because if you do
yeah.
-1, that means all.
Okay,
Or
I have not
-1
done.
and stuff like that.
-1.
So, but yeah,
But
there is
I've
an
done this.
offset.
That's so bizarre. I've done that. I've done that elsewhere. And I mean the offset's running for sure right here.
Mhm.
Or maybe it's not. But
In any case,
huh.
that's where you
Yeah,
would,
in any case, we've been doing this for 3, 4 years. We still get tripped up on it, right? And you just click on things until you finally find it again. Um, but yeah, I mean, there is a little bit of um, improvement needed in the query block. Um, you know, as evidenced by that. If you have really sophisticated needs, I would think about the advanced query block from Ryan Welcher. Um, and then also Ross Marsali makes search and filter. And search and filter is great because it includes searching like you would use something like Facet, but it's got its own query output too. So I think I've only used it lightly at this point, but I think the combination of queries that you can run with search and filter simultaneously are pretty powerful. It's a pro plugin, but it's worth it. And maybe I can get Ross to do one of these sessions one day. He's in Spain, so the time difference might get him. So
so
that,
I
go
would
ahead.
love it if someone other than me and Tom would talk. Not that I don't love gabbing with Tom about my extremely nuanced, nerdy interests, but I know there's been some chatter in the chat, and I know this is new to several people here. So I think this is a safe space. You shouldn't hesitate to ask a question or to go through something that's not been included, but is going back to the beginning of how this works. So
I mean, I'm also happy. Would anyone like to see like what exactly about the DC beer site caused me so many problems that I've figured out like I needed to develop the solution? Because
Leland has a question.
oh, Leland, go for it.
Leland is figuring out how to unmute.
You should be able to.
I've asked you to
Oh,
unmute.
okay, yeah, now I can talk. Sorry,
Oh,
I couldn't unmute myself for a second. So this looks really cool. First of all, I was curious, do DC Beer staffers besides you manage the website? I'm thinking like more, do non-technical people use this, or is it just you or other developers?
100%. So we definitely have an editor and a writer. I think the editor is largely responsible for the input. But the editor, he's worked with Drupal. And in fact, this site was ported from Drupal before I even inherited the last iteration, which was a WordPress site. And so yeah, I've been able to get him acquainted with like how editing a standard post is different than say like a podcast, right? And using the embed blocks, etc. I also have another co-owner who he solely deals with the events calendar, event publishing. So I've got DC Beer set up so that the breweries can submit their own um, you know, self-service their event submissions, including the featured images, etc. And there's just a little approval process that's necessary, and some light retouching of the blocks. I actually haven't looked at it in quite a while, but the way that community events is set up, it's a little weird. It basically, I want to say it all of the custom input for like the various fields that your submitters fill out go into like a classic block. And then as soon as like one of our editors touches the page, it breaks it out into the new blocks. I don't know why that is. And it could have changed. I haven't updated in quite a while. So, but then, you kind of have to know how to go finagle the featured images. Like if it used to duplicate them, so I had to teach them how to like dedupe the featured images. I actually set up a completely automated template, and then they pushed out an update that basically overrode my template, and I went into the code and it said, nobody ever needs to override this. I was like, yes, I do. Why did you change that? And it wasn't even in their change log. I was freaking out. So yeah, it's been a wild ride with DC Beer, but I mean, in terms of the contributors, they could push it a lot further if they wanted it to. But the editor seems to get along pretty nicely. Is there a reason you're curious about that in particular?
I've been working with a lot of non-technical people lately, and sometimes the the block settings, things of that nature can be like so overwhelming to them. They just like shut down and they just are like, please do it for me instead.
Mhm.
So
So
that
I've
was
got-
kind
I've
of the
got one
source of
for
the
you.
question.
I've got one for you, a little timely example too. Um, I built the site for Track Girls, which is a nonprofit. Um, and that was just a Beth, my bad. Here, one that everyone can see. There we go. So and then I'll share my screen. So with Track Girls, there are only two contributors who use this, but they're both non-technical people. And they edit these sections. So there are basically four call to action blocks that you can see here. And they also primarily change the blog. And one thing I've been happy to see them do is they use a lot of photos. You know, I think this is actually with both DC Beer and Track Girls, you can see like cropping or using like wider images to get more effect tends to be the harder thing to get through to people on. But the actual, posting seems to go well. Another one is this was a rescue mission as well. Um, drinkbelgianbeer.com. The operator of this site, Chuck Cook, he's a Belgian beer knight. He is like one of America's foremost experts on Belgian beer. He travels to cover all these Belgian breweries, and he also takes all his own photos, right? So that's stock, but like this is a photo that Chuck took on his adventures in Belgium. So you can see his editorial tendencies are a lot more, I guess, advanced, and this like blocks have made all the difference in the world for him, because he can also I got him hooked up. He doesn't place the blocks in the site using like the Jetpack app or anything, but he knows how to go into the media library only from his phone when he's in Belgium, and he can upload all of his phone shots directly to the media library, and then he'll sit down at a cafe that has Wi-Fi or something, bust out his computer and compose all his posts. But he doesn't have to do any wild device hopscotching for his media, right? So I think people are pretty flexible, once they're kind of like given uh the intellectual permission to do stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, you can upload your entire, everything you have on your phone, you can stick in the media library. Go for it, right? And it's so drag and drop. that it starts to make sense. You just have to kind of be shown it like once or twice. So yeah, I mean, and I will cop to, I have not had to do a lot of block locking. I may in the near future, just because of the evolution of things that I'm doing. But that is an option. I haven't tested that with the child themes. Like, so I don't know if you could say create a bunch of patterns or templates. That said, I've had someone totally destroy a site practically overnight. So maybe Beth, that sounds like a good idea for a roundtable discussion or a presentation, right?
Once I'm actually living where I'm supposed to live, I'm all in. For those who haven't followed my personal saga, I'm renovating my house, and myself and my husband and my 3 kids and my 2 cats, I think we're in our like 5th temporary housing arrangement. So no time
Yeah,
for
so
me
we'll
until I
we'll
live in one place.
yeah, we'll put a pin in that. But the block, I mean, block locking exists.
Yeah.
I just I haven't had a ton of governance problems, but I tend to work with smaller entities.
Yeah, and philosophically, I'm pretty against it, but there are people who need things taken away in order to be keeping at least with the consistency of the brand. In this particular example I'm thinking of, like they they played with the image editing capabilities and took some of the default um not the gradients, the other ones, they're right below
The
them.
duotones.
The duotones. Yeah, you can see
Yeah.
how visual I am because I'm like the things underneath the other things. But they made it look like you were in like a horror movie using night vision, like overnight. And so
But they changed it fundamentally across the entire,
they
oh, because they
they
got
went
into the
into the
styles and
full
did that.
site editor and changed site-wide styles. They changed fonts, they changed colors, they went
Okay.
all in. And
I
so
I am gonna take a moment to show people that because
yeah, they really went for it. And so some of it, like you can lock down
so what they did was they went into
prescribe a
to
palette and not let
blocks.
people use other colors.
I
And like
still
usually I
how
think
could
that's
they?
too restrictive, but
Oh, so that's what they did. They went here to image and they pulled up a permanent duotone
they
filter.
did that black and green one.
That's not funny, but it's so funny.
It's so funny.
So
And
immediately you can see how that completely changed it. That actually looks like it. Did that wipe out my colors too? That's
I don't
bizarre.
know, but it was
Um,
incredibly destructive. Um, in a like this was a first review of the site for them, and
uh,
they were told they could edit content.
oh,
And
so
well, to be clear, I wasn't actually project managing this. I was told that they were told that they could edit content. And I woke up in the morning and I said, oh no, because it didn't look like the same site even. It was, so
yeah, that
I have to
is, I
say
mean,
though, I
that is
think
a pretty
people,
big caveat, right? Like, you can come in and set your like color parameters. I mean, set or like any parameters for your buttons, right? And if somebody's a little gremlin, your buttons change overnight, that could be pretty problematic for
yeah,
a lot of people. And I mean, that's the great thing about, I mean, it's like I will also concede that the biggest um downside to the block paradigm is that the blue sky lends itself to a lot of confusion simply because there are so many options. If you're starting from the ground up, it's too overwhelming, right? And so that's, I think, where you see like Ollie and Ollie Pro and Rock Base and some of these other more framework oriented like base themes coming from is that they're taking out the fire hose of blocks from core. They're supplying you with sort of well, with very prescriptive blocks that are purpose-based. So, you know, things like testimonials, things like pricing columns, right? Fact toggles, that sort of stuff. And giving people the option to compose their pages with you know, these molecular you know, components, as opposed to going, okay, gosh, I got to put this button inside of a cover block and headings and paragraphs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm still guilty of building that way. Like I'll have all of these patterns at my disposal, and I go and I build like my own thing. But I really urge anyone who's listening to this right now or watching it on YouTube to go on and really push the patterns to the limit, create, destroy, download local WP if you haven't already, and just start like tearing it apart as much as you can with templates and patterns. Drop templates that you've made from one theme into another theme, and see how it all reacts, right? Because that's how I got to this point. But what I'm hoping with the hot wiring concept is that you feel comfortable enough that everything's containerized, that it's this like flashing danger sign around the topic of blocks is really no more. All right, I think that wraps it up. And of course, if you have any questions, you can you know, you want to get in touch with any one of us. We are WordPress DC at all of the socials, Blue Sky, Twitter, what else? Mastodon. We're wpdc.wordpress.com. So you can see all that there. Oh, we have a YouTube channel, so you can rewatch this. And we will be back in September, probably with something just a lot more elementary, dealing with Create Block or the Pattern Manager. And then maybe one day Beth will grace us with the block locking beats.